Hi everyone, in this video we're going to look at how we're going to install Stable Diffusion into your computer to make it work seamlessly with Rhino and Grasshopper. So we're going to go through a step-by-step on how to install Stable Diffusion properly on your computer, which Stable Diffusion you need to install, and how to install the plugins for Grasshopper. And then at the end of this video we're going to look at a demo on how to manipulate that script. I'll run through exactly what inputs you need to get the results. So in this part of the video, we're going to look at how we're going to install it. How are we going to install Automatic 1111 locally on your computer? So to do so, you need at least a graphic card that has 6 GB of RAM. So RAM is actually on the graphic card, not the RAM, but the RAM. So it's just like the memory that is built into the graphic cards. If you don't have 6 GB of RAM, it's going to be really hard for it to work. So just to have that heads up before you start the full process and then realize that it doesn't work on your machine. Okay, so this is sort of the first step to check. And then I guess the second step, or like the first step, is as soon as you know that your graphic card is okay, let's jump into how to install Stable Diffusion. So the first things you want to do is to have a look at the installation page of Automatic 1111 from Stable Diffusion Web UI. So I put the link in the description down below, but the idea is this is sort of like your task you to do to-do list to do. So if you scroll all the way down to get to installation and running, you have a couple of things. The first things you want to check is the dependencies. Okay, this is very important. If your dependencies are not correct, then it's going to be really hard to make it work. So the dependency, if I click on it, again, I put the link below for Python 10.06 and then the other one, the Git that you need to install. So you need to go on Python. The Python 10.6 seems to be the one that works very well with Automatic 1111 and Stable Diffusion. So I would keep that version. It's not the latest one, but I think it's the one that works, and that's what matters. It's all about compatibility in this environment. So if you click on this web page here, you're gonna get to that Python website, and then the download page for 3.10.6, and then you go down here and you take like the installer for 64 bits. So just install this one, you get through the process, and then you can just download it. One thing to keep in mind when you install it, I already have installed, so it's not gonna show up, but I will show it on the video in like as an image. But you need to tick the box file to path, file to Windows path, or something like this. So like you'll see like on the screenshot, make sure you see that and then you tick that box. This is very important because that will help to connect with your computer. So like this is really critical to have that Python path in your environment, in your Windows environment. So I guess as soon as you install this one, you want to go and install Get. So Get, I also put here the link in the description, but if I go back to the main page, dependencies, here Git web page. Here you can download the latest, doesn't matter, and download the 64 bits. There is no path on this one, I don't think so. So just install it and have it on your computer, and that will help to download the packages that you required for Automatic 1111. Cool. So I think that as soon as that's sort of done, you can jump into the proper installation of Automatic 1111 on your machine. So as soon as it's installed, you go down here again, you scroll down to installation. There we go. And then here you have the choice between NVIDIA, AMD, and then other sort of processor. And one thing that, you know, like sort of if you deal with that, have a read through. I'm not 100% sure what those ones are doing. I know that, you know, if you have a graphic card that is AMD, pick this one. If it's a NVIDIA graphic card, you can pick this one. So when you click on this, it's going to point you to another page, GitHub page. And then what you need to download here is just click on download this file here, SD web UI zip. So you click on it and it will point you to the latest version, automatic 11.11. And then just click on the zip file here. So the SD web UI zip file, and it will download the little file, and it will get you to now what you need to do is, before you unzip it, you pick a location on your server. So you go here, and for example, for me, I got that location here, and I put under AI software, I have config UI automatic 11.11, and here this is where I basically drop my zip file. So I just select it here like this, and I just drop it in. And then as soon as you drop it in, you unzip, right click, unzip it. Don't have to do like anything else, and then you have this folder. So when you have this folder, you go in, and then that's what you sort of get first. So you have the update, run, environment, and web UI. So the first things you want to do, as soon as it's installed, you want to update. So you double click on this. Here mine is already updated. So you're happy with that, press key to continue, or you can close it and it will just close it automatically. And then as soon as you've done that, you can run it. So if you open it, it's gonna load your Python 3.10.6, the one you download already. And then it will also load your web UI. We'll talk about that shortly. Basically, that's what you get when you double click on automatic 11.11. So you get this window. I've done a full video about like Sketch to AI, where I go a bit deeper into the understanding of automatic 11.11, how you sketch something and you get into an AI sort of images. But this video is not really about this interface, but the Grasshopper and the Rhino part. So we will likely have this here. This is the model that is downloaded with automatic 11.11 by default. So it's v1.5 print. It's an OK model. You can start with it, and then you can already start generate. As I say, I'm not going to mention that, but what you need to install is ControlNet on this page here. So you can see I already have it, but you will need the ControlNet. Now, this is very important. You need the ControlNet, the version 1, not the latest ControlNet. So I think there's a 1.1 point something that is out already, that I've been using personally with stable, like automatic 11.11, because it's also the one I use in my video, in my previous video, Sketch to AI, because I think it's way better and more accurate, and it's trained on larger image. So it's trained on the 1024 by 1024 instead of this one that is trained on the 512 by 512. So the ControlNet as well. So I think that's the challenge with this one specifically. So you want to go here and then click on like install this one. So you're gonna need to go under extension, and again I put the link below for the for this, but it's basically this one here. Okay, so it's this archived link here, web UI. So what you need to go is like, you probably have all that in, but you don't have this one. So you need to go and install from URL. So as soon as you install from URL, and that's why we install Git, because with Git it's gonna download. You put this URL and it's gonna download the package in the extension and install it on your machine automatically. So you paste that under URL extension, you install it. Something will run in the background here. You will see like they will download a couple of things and then save up. And when you will go back to there, nothing will appear. And this is normal because that's how it works. You first need to apply and restart the UI. So when you apply and restart the UI, this will go again, and will restart the UI, and then your extension will show up. Okay, so no panic if it doesn't show straight away. And that's where you should start to see this ControlNet here. If you already have ControlNet installed, you're gonna need to remove the folder from your folder structure, so the 1.1 whatever, that's what I had to do, and then install the version 1. Because the version 1 is the only one for now, as soon as I know that it has an API you can connect to, and that will work with Grasshopper and the plugin we're going to use today. So it's a bit of a tricky one. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to use Automatic 11.11 for Grasshopper and Rhino. And I'll probably use Forge or something if I want a web UI. So it's another Stable Diffusion, another interface you can use. And then I use Config UI as well. So I think this is good to leave it like this, but this is up to you how you want to organize your workflow and your software. So here's like what you've got there, and then what you want to do here is like you want to just go and close that. You don't really need anything else. As soon as you see it here, you're happy with that. This is ControlNet. You can close that. And we're gonna have to do one last things in Automatic 11.11 before we jump into downloading models and get everything set up in Grasshopper. So the last things you want to do is going into your web UI, and you're gonna have to change your web UI user. So if you right click on this one here, you're gonna have to right click and edit with a notepad. And then if you edit with a notepad, you're gonna have to add here a couple of things. That's what I use with my specific graphic card, which is a 3060 Ti on this machine. But then what you really need is line API. So what you need to do is just, I'll put everything down in the description, but here you just need to do line API. Sorry, line is not really the right line. And then you do space, and then you do something else. So if you want to use low RAM, line low RAM. If you have, like, for example, for me, I don't have, it's only 8 GB of RAM. So on my graphic card, so I'll need to put that because it's considered as low RAM. And then you can carry on and do the whole thing. So I think I have it all here. Okay, and then when you're done, save. So we'll save on top of it. And then here you can go back to your web UI and then double click on run. So here you can see that it loads what you just wrote down. So API, low RAM, Explorer. So it loads that. So that's a good sign. It means that everything is well installed. So if you don't see API here, when you launch it, you might need to go back to the edit and see. There's one thing I've done this mistake. So I went like here, right click, edit, and here I put a space here. And then let me show you what happened. And then I save it. And let's see if it crashed as well. And then I run it. Oh no, it works. Okay, I don't know what I've done, but I thought I put a space somewhere and then it just like stopped from working. So apparently it works even if you have a space. There. And then you end up with that. You make sure you've got your ControlNet, and then everything here is installed. So now if you go back to this sort of windows and elements, you can download some models here to add a bit more models to your Grasshopper. So a good place to download model is Civit AI. And here I'm just gonna go to like realistic. That's a good model, that realistic vision. There we go. So that's a good model to download. So I'm just going to click on this one, for example. And the one I test was like the version 5. So this one here, I think that's the one I have. Or even version 4 are very good. Version 5, it might have been like version 5.1. Yeah, it might be version 5.1. Just make sure it's a normal version. No, not a hyper or hyper paint in paint, because we're gonna have to talk a bit more about it. But for now, for this demo, make sure there is no it's just the normal version that is very baked. So if you decide to go with the 5, you can go here. If you decide to go with the 6, you can use this one, but it's a beta, so stay away from the beta. So maybe just like, you know, the 5 or the 5.1. I think I have this one and it works very well. Now, you know, you can see it's Stable Diffusion 1.5, and that's the one we're going to use in this example as well. For the moment, the Grasshopper AI only work with Stable Diffusion 1.5. There is some discussion about getting it onto the SDXL. I think that would be brilliant because there's so much more and the quality is better. But for now, it's Stable Diffusion 1.5, which is fun. So we're gonna go here. You can download this model. Can create an account. It's really good because you can just sort of filter out the visibility, because there's a lot of like not really cool stuff on this website. I mean, it depends what you look for, but I think for architecture, it's just like it's good to just put it like a filter, have an account, and just download whatever you need. And then you go back to like sort of download your model, and you get everything in there ready to go. And then the other things is like there's a link below. You also need to download the models for ControlNet. So you're gonna need to go to the link. I put the link below, and this is where you can find the ControlNet model. So again, because it's a version, an archive version of version 1 and not 1.1.63, you can't really lay the latest ControlNet model, so you need to use a model that will work with this ControlNet. So that's why I've done the full video, because there's a lot of like compatibility issues that could run into like challenges. So I just wanted to do a video where I capture all those like compatibility, so we make sure that it works on your machine. So then when you get to here, to this place here, you need to download the models pre-trained. So usage pre-trained models, and the usage after install, blah blah. So you click on this one. It's a Hugging Face. It's also like a very good website where you can select your download your file, and then you can download all of them. So you can see it's SD 1.5, so SD 15 canny, and it's a Python file. The one we're gonna use in this demo is just a canny, so you can download it. It's already quite big, 5.71 gig. So you just download it. I'll show you. You just download it. It'll take some time for me. So you download it, and then when you get to the folder, it will appear in your download. And then what you need to go into your web UI, and then because everything have been installed correctly, you go into your model, and then no, sorry, not going to your model. You go to the extension. That's the difference with the old ControlNet. So you go into extension, and then here you will see that folder appearing. Web UI ControlNet. So it's basically this extension. So if you install other extension, they will all appear in that extension folder. And when you click on this, you have models, and here you're gonna have already some models. So you're gonna have those ones already there in there. And then what I had here is the ControlNet 1.5, so it's basically this one here. Okay, so it's this file, and then you just paste it here. You can see it's 5.5 gig, so you paste it in this folder. So again, like another extension, web UI models. So okay, so now I think we've got everything. Now if you relaunch automatic 11.11, you will see it here, ControlNet. And when I click on this and you do enable, here you can do canny. And then here you can select your, so here you should see now your ControlNet. So I got a couple of them, but the one that I just mentioned is this one. So you probably don't have all of them. You just have this one. So select this one, and then you are good to go. So it's a ControlNet SD 1.5 canny, and it's exactly the same as this one. Okay. So then it proves that it works. Automatic 11.11 seems to be well set up. Everything seems to work correctly. So now the next step, I guess, is to close it and then go into Grasshopper. So one thing you need to do when you use the plugin for Stable Diffusion, make sure you use Rhino 7. It doesn't work on Rhino 8 just yet. So just keep that in mind. So right click on this and then run as administrator. This is also important to avoid any issues. Haven't tried without running as an administrator, but it might help with the process. So you get it there, ready to go. And then what you need to do here is just open a file. So here I'm just opening a random file that I created for as an example for this video. So it's the Melbourne pavilion that is actually there at the moment. I went there 2 weeks ago and it was really nice to see it in real. It's from Tadawando, a beautiful pavilion in the middle of the park. Beautiful project. So I just decided to model it. I put the link below on where I found the plan, the section and things like that if you want to model it yourself. Also put, like, you know, on my Patreon, I'll put all the files available for you to download. But this is sort of like where I got to, very simple pavilion. I may do a tutorial on how to design it or to build it because it's quite easy. But anyway, this is sort of like a very simple model. You can choose and pick any model you want for this exercise. And then I guess the first step is to go into your package manager. And then here you can just look it at Ambrosinus. So if you type here Ambrosinus, there we go. Took some time. And then you can download the latest version. Okay, 1.29. So it's just May 24. So you can download this one, install. Alternatively, you can find it as well on Food for Rhino. Okay, and then you can just go here and then download here. Sinus. If you download from there, you need to make sure that you unzip the file and then you install it. But yeah, you log in, you take that, you first unblock before downloading it to sign in. But anyway, I can show you later. But basically, when it's downloaded, you just right click on the zip file, and again, 99% of the time, the plugins don't work in Grasshopper with my students. It's because they haven't unblock it before you install it. So just keep that in mind. If you don't see it appearing, try to go back to the zip, unblock, unzip, and do the process. Okay, so here I got Grasshopper open, and then basically what I'll put down below in the description, there's a link with from Luciano, who put everything in there. So if you click on the link below, there's a lot of things. Here there are like some Grasshopper file you can download actually that are really good. You can just click on this and then download them, and then drop them onto your canvas, and make it work. Some of them didn't quite work, so I just had to do a bit of research with like whatever process I just show you, and make it work the way it works. So like it's a bit of a process that I've done, but I'm just gonna open actually my Grasshopper file. I'm just gonna open it. And let's see what we've got. So again, those files, I'll put them available for the Patreon, Grasshopper and the Rhino files, so you can download them. I basically done slightly different than on the demo file from Luciano. And the reason was like, because it just didn't quite work with the way I show you how to install Stable Diffusion. And I'm not 100% sure why, but it just didn't work. It didn't really launch the web UI, and there were like some errors interface. So what I've found, so I found a way around it, which I don't know if it's the best way. It's probably not the best way, but it's the way that sort of I show you today, and it works for me. So hopefully it works for you as well. Basically, when you click and open Automatic 11, when you have the Grasshopper open, what I've done is I actually open automatic 1111 as well. So I just run here, I click it, and then I launch automatic 1111. Now you can see API logger. Now this part here, I'm just gonna keep it open because all what I need is not the interface, but I need that window. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I can't make it work with like launch the window. I used to have no issue with it, and I think I was with the previous Stable Diffusion version, but the one I just show you is just like I run into a couple of issues. So the way around it is I open automatic 1111, it's there. I can just reduce this window because I'm not gonna need it, and I just keep this one as well. I can reduce it as well. I keep it there, and now what I can do is I just have this script already done, but basically what I've done here, I went to Ambrosinus plugin, and what I drop is I'm just focusing on this tab here, and the only components I'm using is the first one is this one here, which is basically selecting my model. So it's this one here, so I just drop it here, and then I put a toggle. So if I go back here, I put a boolean toggle there, and then another boolean toggle there, and then I put a slider here, and then I don't need all the zeros, so just, you probably don't have many models, and then you just plug it in. And basically by doing this is like when I turn it through, I have the list of my models. So that means oh yeah, I didn't mention that. So as soon as you download the file from Civit.ai, so this big file from Civit.ai, as soon as you finish to download it, you can it will appear in your download folder, and the way you need to do it, you need to copy it and save it in your folder here on automatic 1111. So if I go to web UI, I double click on this, and I'm going all the way to my models, and then under web UI models, there's something here. I have a ControlNet as well, but it's something called Stable Diffusion. Now I click on that, double click on this, and this is where I put all my model or checkpoints. Okay, so you can see here Real Vision 4. I have also Real Vision 5. So that's the Excel version. Sorry. So this one is the one we're gonna use. That's as Stable Diffusion 1.5. So when I say Excel and 1.5, 1.5 is a previous version. Excel is the new version. So we've got a couple of versions. The main one are 1.5, and then the next one is SDXL. Now we've got 3.5 that just be released. So anyway, there are a couple of options there, but the one we want is 1.5. So I need a model that works with 1.5, and this one, the one I show you in Civit.ai, and I just copy paste it in there. So I also have actually the beta version, the version 6 beta, the one I was mentioning. Anyway, this is sort of like where I put my model and the model Stable Diffusion, and then they will appear in that list basically. So now I got all the models that I show you on this folder, and then you can select the one you want. So the one I tested was like Real Vision 5.1, and I also tested the 1.5, the prune, so the default one you have when you download Stable Diffusion. Both of them works okay. And then maybe you can just swap from there, and then maybe download other ones. 1.5 again. Excel doesn't work, so I try to make it with Excel, but it doesn't seem to work. But you know, again, maybe I didn't try enough or hard enough, so maybe just have a go at it. But from what I experienced, only the 1.5 were working fine. Okay, and then sort of when you're done with it, what I have here is, so you've got this, and then the other component that I used here is this one was just sort of an image in the brain. I found it quite funny, these diagrams. So I'm just going through the process here, and then there's here this one, AI image to image. So that's what we want for canning. So that's what we want for ControlNet, and being able to actually visualize or have some connection between what's happening in Rhino and what's the output of the image. So I'm just going to select this one, and then we can go through a bit together. So the first things you want to look at is the CN version. So this means the ControlNet version. And then so basically like the 0 would be like the one we just installed. Okay, so you could keep it as 0. And then this is basically how you're gonna tell the model that you're dealing with. Your ControlNet that we just installed together is 0. If you go 1, it's gonna be another ControlNet that I haven't tested, but they're not too sure it works. But again, I need to do more testing to see how that could work. All what I'm showing is something that works for me, and it was pretty efficient. Now the mode train. So all those ones I find it a bit challenging. So that's why what I've done is I created sort of a value constant component. So which is basically if you go to your parameters here and then your inputs, you can just create a value list. So by doing a value list, you can actually change the name of it. So I could change here to blah blah blah, or like CN version 1. That would work as well. And then here instead of 1, I could do, okay, this is X, this is Y, etc, etc. And here make sure you have 0. And so basically instead of having a slider, you have like names. So you can change, and X will be the output of this one. So if I put a panel, the output of this one will be 0. And then if I do 2, the output will be 2, because 2, the output is 2, and etc, etc. So if I go 3, the output would be 3, etc, etc. So you can use that. I find it just easier to navigate through the process. So that's what I've done here. So I just had a value list, and then I'm gonna focus only on the first few, so the basic and the CN canny. So if I go to my value list here, and then I'm just gonna call it ControlNet 1, because that's the version 1, and then here we're gonna say that's the base. So basically the base will be like no ControlNet, and then this one is canny. So again, it depends how it has been trained, and I'm just gonna keep those 2 only. So then I can go back here, and then you can see here I have another value list that I created just to show. Here I got only 2, so it's the output 0 or output 1. Again, I need to try the other ControlNet because for me it's a bit unclear what is happening. But basically here I can copy paste that, and I say like ControlNet version, and then I can change here to version 1. And then here version 1.x is 1. So I want version 1, which is output 0. So I could just replace that so it's a bit clearer. And then pre-train. Oh, okay, cool. Yes, that's great. Okay, so if I actually plug it, hold on. So if I actually plug this one here, I'll get the output straight away. Oh, that's great. Should have tried that. That's amazing. Okay, so like again, value list, and then I plug this one in there, and then here will give me like basic, canny, depth. So that will give me like an idea of which ControlNet I'm using. I download only the canny. If I go back and want to download other models, I can on the hugging face, I can download other models and put them in the same folder. So here, as you said, they don't tell you if you have it saved properly in the right place. So just be mindful and make sure you save them in the right place. Times out custom, you can keep it this way. Directory path. So assign the path of the folder where you want to save your image that you generate. So here, you could do a C directory. So if I go here to my directory here, file path, and then I can right click. Or what I like to do is actually like to do a panel. And then what I've done on this one is I've done it. If you go to on this one is in this folder, I actually add like image, a folder called image generated. So here I've done a couple of tests already. And then that's the inputs. So basically create two folders on your, in wherever you have, and here that's where my 3D is, with the plan and sections. And then create a folder with like image generated and then inputs. So basically what I want here is just copy the path, paste it, and then when you paste it, just make sure. I like the panel because I can see what goes in, more than just like right click and set. You could set the directory here, but then yeah, and then I guess plug a panel behind. But I like having this sort of there, and then here you just plug it into your directory. And then you do the same for this one. But for this one, it's a bit more specific because you need to specify the image itself. So base image. So you don't give a directory, you don't give a folder, you need to give an image. So to do that, you need to disconnect this one. And then you right click, and then here you don't select the directory, you select actually an existing file. So I select this one, and then I'm going to my folder. And then here I'm going to my inputs this time. So I created a file here, and then I'll select one file. So if you haven't selected a file yet, if you haven't created a file, which would make sense, you can go in your Rhino model. So whatever model you have created, what I've done is here I have two perspectives. And then all what I have to do is, you could find a nice view. Let's do a nice view. It's a bit like sort of drawing shots, but it's quite interesting. And then you can go into properties, of course, and then change, 2 points perspective or parallels. Parallels just doesn't work quite well. Perspective, I like the 2 points perspective to a certain extent, but that's looking quite interesting. So maybe like something like this. And then when I'm happy with the image, I save it. Let's call it image perspective 3. So you saved your image, and then what you can do here is actually you can click on it, and then you can capture to file. So that's what I've done. And then here I'm just going to select the folder where I put all my image as inputs. One thing's to here to be mindful. I always use like transparent background overall when I export them. I like that because when you import them in InDesign or Illustrator, you get something nice. You don't have like the white, so you just have like this transparency. You can manipulate in Photoshop as well, all those type of things. So I use background. And then what's very important here in this image is the ratio. So for now, for this demo, we're going to keep it as 512 by 512. One thing to keep in mind is we are working with like Stable Diffusion 1.5. And basically Stable Diffusion 1.5 is trained on an image size of 512 by 512. If you wanted to change that, you might have to go to like SDXL, which is the next version of Stable Diffusion, which is trained on 1024 by 1024. So this is something to keep in mind. For now, Grasshopper and the plugins works with Stable Diffusion 1.5. So here this video is about using Stable Diffusion 1.5. So the model we'll download, or the checkpoints we download, are for Stable Diffusion 1.5. The ControlNet that we download and we use are for Stable Diffusion 1.5. and the dimension of our image coming from Rhino and coming out of Grasshopper will be 512 by 512, because this is sort of the how the data is trained. If you want to upscale it, you can use other tools to upscale this image, but this is another sort of process. Probably you will go towards like Confi UI if you want to do more advanced AI work, but this one is sort of like a good starting point, and I believe that will sort of evolve in the process. But here we go. So 512 by 512 scale, make sure you get at 1, and then it will give you a resolution of 512 by 512. And then the last point, and not least, the very important part here is to use Stable Diffusion. Here is to use not JPEG, but PNG. Okay, so make sure you use PNG. I got stuck for like 2 hours the other day trying to figure out the whole process and the whole video. And then I went through like components, I changed the component, I changed the Stable Diffusion version, I downloaded another version just to make sure that it was working with the full process. And then I realized the reason it wasn't working is because the image input were in PNG, they were JPEG. And I was just like, it was driving me nuts. So just be mindful of this. PNG image, please. Make sure. This is very important. So I save this one here, and then I have it there. So what I need here is right click and then select one. It selects an existing file, and that's where I select my image. So I'll select this one. So you can see in this folder they actually show you JPEGs. So make sure, because I kept the JPEG just as a memory of like a bad work, but just, you know, make sure it's PNG, and then you select it. All right, mask image, you don't really need that. This is for another process, and it probably deserves a full other video. Prompt. So here I prepared some prompts. So I'm just gonna copy paste my prompt. And I'll have to do like a full video of like prompting. But basically what's something to keep in mind is the prompt is also is largely driven by the model you're using. So if we go back to Civit AI, and I'm just going back to my realistic vision, which is not Excel again, it's 1.5. If I go to the model, I just download the 5.1 version 5.1. It's Stable Diffusion 1.5, and then here, if I look at that down, they give you some information to help you out through the process. And then for the prompt, that's what they recommend to use in your positive prompt. So copy paste that, depending on which model you use. You might add, so that they say raw photo, and then after you subject, and then 8K, all those type of things. So I just need to copy this, and then for the negative prompt, I just copy that. It's not really about like portraits, so I don't think it matters too much, but just skip it as like sort of best practice sort of process. So I just copy paste that in my positive prompt, so you can see raw photo is there, and then basically this is what comes from the model, and this is what comes from the model on CivicLI, and then all in between I just sort of filled up with a way to build a prompt. It probably needs a bit of a full video on how to build a prompt, but basically here, contemporary pavilion, minimal architecture in the park, surrounded by tree, concrete in situ, walls with aluminum cladded roof. So it's similar to whatever is there already, and to see what comes up. Negative prompt, I just copy paste whatever was on Civit AI, and then I plug it here. Positive, negative prompt. So it doesn't say positive, but that's the positive prompt and the negative prompt. Now the steps, again, go back to your models and have a look at what step they recommend. Here they will recommend also like a sampler. We'll get back to it. And then the steps. So the steps. They don't mention much of the steps, but if I click on this photo, for example, here, if I look at this, that's the prompt they use. That's the negative prompt. And if I go down here, they say guidance 7, steps 25. If I go to the other one, step 25. So I think it will be likely around 25 steps. So to get some good quality image. So I'm gonna keep it to 25 steps for now. CFG scale is basically what they call here guidance. Okay, so here they say guidance 7. So I'm just gonna keep it as 7. And I'm gonna put this one here. Weight. Yeah, so weight will be like sort of how much you want your Stable Diffusion to influence the output of the image. So for example, you have that pavilion here. You want to make it like sort of a nice and you want it to capture all the lines. You'll do 1. So it would be between 0 and 1. But if you want the weight to be quite important, just put it 1 or put it 0.8, and you can test again those type of things. So it's between 0 and 1. So you can have 0.8, 0.6, whatever you decide. The noise, so determine how little respect the algorithm should have the image content. At 0, nothing will be changed, and at 1, you will get unrelated image with a value below 1. So yeah, so keep it low for now, the denoising. That helps to get some consistency with your model. But you can be even more creative here. I got like denoise at 0.1, 0.8. So I'm probably gonna put 0.2. Cool. So here you go back and then you just do the denoise. Now the width and height, again, remember like what I say about the training images, because it's Stable Diffusion 1.5, we're gonna keep it as 512 by 512. So I just like to put a slider just to see what's happening. But by default, see they use this image because it's version Stable Diffusion version 1.5. Resize. So again, resize, you can just select value list, and I think hopefully, yeah, gives you like this pre-made stuff. Just keep it as resize for now. And then I will talk and do some video and more data about this process. Number of image. So here you can do 1 to 5. So that's how much you want to batch images. I recommend to put 1 to test your prompt, test the location, test the script, everything works, and then you can go nuts and do a bit more. Keep in mind that, you know, if you do too much, you might crash your graphic cards. So just be mindful about it. Just, yeah, keep it sort of like, you know, conservative at the start. So I'll go with 1. Sampler method, again, I'm just gonna copy paste that, and then bam, I got all the sampler method. That's amazing. So what I'm gonna do here is, again, I'm just gonna go back to my model and I'm gonna have a look at sampler method. So here the sampler they use DPM++ SDE Keras. So if I go back to another one, similar, use the same photos. Okay, DPM. So most of them are using DPM, and if I go here in the description, they also recommend DPM something. Yeah, so they recommend this one here as well. So I'm gonna keep it this way. I like the 2+, but we can keep it as I say. So it would be the DPM would be this one here. The seed, so the seed is like, you can have like a certain style, and then you can try to match that style, and keeping the seed consistent can have like more consistency across your iteration. But if you like me and you're curious to see what what comes out of the process. I'm just gonna do 500 here, and I'm just gonna edit my slider and put here -1 as a starting point. So I could pick any seed, but if I go -1, it will randomly generate a seed for that specific image. So I can just select this one, and then the last component I need is a toggle. So I'm just gonna put a toggle here, and now suddenly it sort of shows it quite nicely. So I got my image, I got my outputs folder, and what I need is another component, which is the image, Ladybug image viewer. So if you don't have Ladybug installed, you might have to go to Food for Rhino. And again, I think I'll do a video about how to install Ladybug in more detail, because I want to talk about it in my channel a bit more. But it's basically you go in your Ladybug and then you log in and then you download the latest one. And the latest one will have like a nice component called Ladybug Image Viewer that you can use. And then what I like to do is just having my based image connected here. So this is sort of giving you the path to that image. So I like having here so I know which image I select. So if I do here and select an existing one, again PNG, make sure, and I select the first one will appear. If I select existing file, if I select the 3 again, PNG, the 3 comes up. Okay, and then what I need to do here is outputs. So same idea, outputs, they will be here they will tell me like all the image that I generated. It doesn't quite work. So what I do usually is I do the a Ladybug again see out. So I think I might be actually from, yeah, it's actually from Ambrosinus Toolkit. So if you go here in your image, so you might be able to actually visualize it. I don't know if it's done a anyway, it's called see out. So I just put it here, and then you plug your inputs here, and then last out. And then here you can put, what I've done is I put a slider. And I plug the slider in there. And then here you can flick through all the images. Yeah, so it needs to be in sequence, not last out. And then yeah, here we can see some of the tests. So it will go through all the images you generated. So you can see at the start has been a lot of try and error, and then eventually I got to a couple of interesting ones, but again not related to whatever I had in Rhino. And then I think from there I start having a bit better images. That was done with a config UI. So it somehow recognized, so that was from this image here. And it recognized quite well the shape and the form. But again, the thing with ControlNet 1.0, or like the one we use, is not super detailed. And the reason is it's trained on 512 by 512. So you can see the pixelation is quite big and it just misses a lot of information. This line here is supposed to be continuous. Doesn't quite capture it. So it's just sort of like, you know, it's a bit hit or miss, unfortunately. Maybe you can use another ControlNet to have a bit more accuracy, but you can see what it does here. So here it actually done some really interesting stuff. You just start from there and then just sort of build up the whole rest of the pavilion on top, which is kind of quite interesting. You know, from this image, why not? You know, like that could be quite interesting. And then it sort of start to be a bit more sort of close to the geometry. So I think I had maybe in the settings where it can go a bit nuts in terms of process, and then here is way more conservative in his outcome. So again, in the outcome you're gonna have a canny, so like an image like this that show exactly what you get out of it, and a final render. So if we go back to it, let's have a look and test if that works. So if I bring across, I click on this, and then here in your window, so you know, as we said, we don't really care about the automatic 1111 part. We're just looking at what's happening here. So you can see it loads the ControlNet SD15 that we just saved in our folder, and then it pre-processed as canny, so it recognizes it's a canny, so I can use it as canny, and it will just generate the canny and it will generate the image. Again, the number of steps here is only 6, and the reason is because here I lower down a bit the denoising process, so I'm not 100% sure. So that was my original image, so let's see what happened here. So I can go here through there. So what he produced, yeah, interesting. It's very close to the original. Not too sure what happened there. So let's give it a bit more. 1.8, a bit of more denoising. So hopefully we get a bit something more creative. Again, if you kept it true, like now my computer froze, because my the process is going on here in the background, so so that frees my sort of Rhino Grasshopper. So make sure you turn it off, you turn it to false before you change those changes, because as soon as you process any new changes, it will just send it to Stable Diffusion to generate the image. So here you can see I increased a bit the denoising, and then it went up to like 21 steps, which is interesting. Like so it just means it's gonna process a bit more the image and get to something different in terms of output. And again, the weight is very important, so I don't want it to change what I have in Rhino. I want it to be like quite nice and clear. Cool, so let's have a look at what comes out. So I'm just going here. Okay, so here we go. So bit more creative, and I create that sort of output image. Again, I think he struggled a bit with the view, because maybe my prompt is not capturing the view quite well. So I might need to test another view. So if I go maybe select something different, so I'm just gonna go back here. So I could go in Rhino and just change, get another view. I'll prepare some views, so I'm just gonna select one, and then here I'm just gonna go and pick maybe pick this one, Stable Diffusion one. It's a bit more photographic, I guess. Again, I could use you know, instead of Rhino, because I went there, I could just grab a picture or a photo I've done and then put it here as a ControlNet. But then it just would defy the purpose of using Rhino and Grasshopper. But you know, that's something you could do. And here, because I didn't press true false, it went straight into the process because something changed as an input. So bam, it sent it straight to Stable Diffusion. So there we go. So you can see like the 3.5 seconds. It's because of my graphic cards. If you have low RAM, it will be a bit slower. If you have faster RAM, it will be faster. So again, the quality, it's because you're dealing with the version 1.5, and you know, you can alterate that reality by having like better models on Civit AI, and just sort of get some good results. I got some interesting results just with 1.5 because of the models I used. So if we go now through the process, and now we're back to this type of canny, and this is what it creates, which is it's quite interesting. Why not? So there are like some I don't know, look at this, for example, that's your original design from Tadawando, and this is sort of the result from AI. So again, the way I like to use it in Grasshopper and Rhino is early stage concept project, not final renders. Like it's just like you're there, generate ideas, try to sort of like brainstorm, is that the right idea, is that the right form, what if that and what if this, and then I maybe like I like that sort of lighting things. I mean, there's some water in the pavilion, so maybe there's some relation to water. I don't know, maybe that will destroy the idea, but maybe it's around that element. Maybe there's an element of water that runs on that side, and here it's solid. I don't know, that could be like a reflection, but this is something, this image is triggering me. It's like, okay, maybe there's some interesting stuff to do with light, natural light, and eventually water, because there's water here, I see water, but maybe it's not water that AI generated. But it's just, that's the way I use it, and that's the way I like to use it in Grasshopper, and that might be the way, you know, you want to use it. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the process, and you were able to use it to install it on your own machine and start testing and iterate. As I say, like, it's really about finding idea. The quality of the image is not really what's important in that process. It's more about sort of understanding how that process can trigger some ideas, some design ideas, some reflection around what do you want to achieve, but not really about capturing the exact elements. That's what I like, and that's how I use it in this context. And I'll be looking at like other new AI videos and AI tutorials, but also Grasshopper and Rhino on that channel. So if you like that video, yeah, please like the video, and if you want to subscribe, welcome to do so as well. Thanks for supporting this channel, and then I see you in the next video. Ciao.